So hello everyone and welcome to our info session today about our two international and interdisciplinary master programs at the University Center of the Westfjords here in Ísafjörður, Iceland. We're talking about the two master's program, Coastal and Marine Management, or Coastal Communities and Regional Development. We also like to summarize that as Coastal Studies. My name is Astrid Feeling. I'm the Administrative Director here at the University Center, and I'm also part of admission. With me here today are the academic directors of the programs, as well as Emily, a current student at UW, and the academic directors will introduce their programs in a minute and will introduce themselves in a minute and share with you the structure and introduce the programs to you before we continue to talk about admission requirements, student life in Ísafjörður, and opportunities after graduation. Please use the Q&A function to ask any questions we don't answer during the session, or if you need any information you can't find on our homepage, www.uw.is. And we will address those questions as we go along, and then also at the end of this event. So this is us. The University Center of the Westfjords is located in the very northwest of Iceland in a region called the Westfjords. And Ísafjörður is the largest town of the Westfjords with a population of around 2,500 inhabitants. It is somewhat remote, but it is the economic and administrative center of the Westfjords. It is a nice small town with friendly people. And now Matthias is going to take over and tell you all about coastal studies at UW.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Astrid. Yes, so my name is Matthias. I'm the academic director of the Coastal Communities and Regional Development Program. Before I talk a little bit more, or before we talk about a bit more about the specific programs, a little bit about the University Center itself. So we started operation some 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, but the actual teaching started in 2008. And we allow usually some 20 students per program each year. We will probably address that later on again. And that means that we have some 40 students that usually come here for the first academic year. And as Astrid also mentioned in the introduction, it's an interdisciplinary. Both programs are very interdisciplinary. So you get a lot of different topics that we cover from all kinds of disciplines. And when we talk about international collaboration, so we bring pretty much all our teachers to the Westfjords to teach for you. We search for the best teachers in the field, experts in the field. Some of them are within Iceland, some come from the outside, but it's not only about teaching where we seek for international collaboration. We've seen also a lot of requests from outside institutions, universities from pretty much all around the world that want us to join research projects, and that is something that we also strive for. And what we mean with independent projects, here we come about internal independent projects, but also from the outside. Internal means that we do all kinds of individual research projects as well at the University Center, but also for you, independent projects means that once you're done with your coursework, you will do independent master thesis projects. There's hardly any restrictions to that, as long as you mention the coast somewhere. I think that goes without saying. But so that is something we will address in a couple of slides again when we talk about the actual thesis work as well. So we are quite special when it comes to the structure of the programs. It's not that special that we offer 120 ECTS, European Credit Transfer System, for our degree. That's quite common for master programs, not only in Europe, but also in North America. And we are accredited by the University of Akureyri. So they are doing the quality control for us. I think that's not so important to know, but sometimes if you are searching for us online, if you visit our homepage, it looks a bit strange when you see, wait, is it the University Center of the Westfjords or the University of Akureyri? Don't get confused. Again, we will also address that in a few moments, but the University of Akureyri is the institution that is doing our quality control, and that is through the university, the institution through which we are accredited. Usually, if everything goes well, your studies will take between 18 and 21 months, so just under 2 years. Longer time periods are also allowed, but the vast majority of our students finishes within this time frame. What does it mean? So we start in August every year and then finish the coursework in June of the next year. And then most students, or a good number of students, will leave the university center conducting their master's research somewhere else. Some also stay within Iceland, conduct their research here, and then after a couple of months, we will have the master thesis defense, and then you graduate as well in June. So that explains these 21 months that a master's with us takes usually. What is important to consider about this 120 ECTS, and we will see that also in a few moments again, a little bit better illustrated. 60% of the credits that we provide are from coursework, usually in the first year. 40% come from the master thesis. So that is quite a high ratio for a master thesis, but that also means that it's a lot of responsibility on the student to find a good topic, to go and do independent research, take good time for this research, and write a good thesis. So there is a lot of emphasis on getting you out in the field writing this thesis. And something that we will see on the following slides is how, or in 3 slides, is how these courses are distributed. What makes us very special is that we teach in modules. That means that we only have one course at a time that is taught for 1, 2, or 3 weeks before another course takes over. So we will focus on one particular topic, one particular course, and then hand it over to the next teacher and to the next field that we want to cover. So we really go in depth, but it's also very intense. But that is something that we probably talk about also in a few moments. And as I mentioned before, and what this structure allows us, we won't have a huge faculty with 60, 70 people being in our university center. It's actually just 9 people. But we bring experts for exactly these 1, 2, or 3 weeks courses to the University Center of the Westfjords. They stay with you for these 3 weeks. Sometimes students stay in touch afterwards for finding good research topics as well. And so that is one of the big benefits that we have with this particular system, how we are structuring our programs.
All right, moving on to the next slide.
So, hello everyone. My name is Brack Hale. I am the academic director for the other master's program, the Coastal and Marine Management program. And just to give you a little more in-depth overview of the 2 different programs that you might be interested in. As Matthias said, there are 120 ECTS. 75 of that are coursework, and part of that are your core courses for each of the programs. And then the rest are elective credits. And so depending on if you're sort of interested in both and you're trying to decide what might make more sense for your own interests or your career aspirations, the Coastal Communities and Regional Development Program, what we refer to as CRD at the University Center, tends to focus, is more rooted in the social sciences. Matthias will talk a little more what that means shortly. And then the Coastal and Marine Management Program, known as CMM for us, is more rooted in the natural sciences. But as Matthias mentioned earlier, both are interdisciplinary programs. So you do have coursework across multiple academic disciplines. And you have the opportunity, certainly in your elective courses, to go much further into other disciplines than just the core courses might provide. So maybe next slide. So just to give you a sense, as I mentioned, both programs have their core courses. So CRD is really rooted in, sociology, geography, economics. CMM is more ecology, management, and some of the physical natural sciences. Both programs you have to take environmental economics, We also require you to take a methodology course with us. We have some academic writing and thesis writing, or proposal writing courses that we expect you to take. But then the rest of your courses are primarily chosen from electives. The electives are open to students in both programs, and so you build an elective concentration that really reflects your interests and what you want to do. And you see in front of you some of the various courses that we offer. They span a wide range of topics, and you also have the opportunity, if you're interested in taking some of those courses at other institutions in Iceland, as well as with partner universities if you want to, go abroad from your coming to Iceland. So Matthias alluded to this earlier. This is what our course schedule looks like in general, and what we are looking at right now for the 25-26 academic year. The courses are taught in 1 to 3 weeks. And you can see the courses in blue are the CMM core courses. The courses in purple are the CRD core courses. The courses in dark orange are the joint core courses. So a couple of the core courses are for everyone. And then the tan colored courses are the elective courses. And so you start out your autumn term primarily with core courses. We do have a session with elective courses in early and mid-October. 2 of those courses actually participate in the Arctic Circle Assembly, which is a big international meeting that takes place in Reykjavik every year. Can be a great experience for students, a great chance to interact with some of the people and stakeholders that we talk about in our courses. We do have a short mid-semester break because modules can be a lot, and it's nice to take a brief break. And then we finish up a lot of the core courses in that fall term. And then a lot of the spring and summer are devoted to elective courses, other than we start the spring term with 2 of our core courses, and then we end the entire first academic year with the final core courses that try to pull all of your coursework together for both CRD and CMM. During the elective sessions, certainly if you choose not to take courses during a specific session, you can build in a little break if you decide you want another break, or if you want to go do coursework elsewhere. The big courses you need to make sure you're present for are certainly the core courses, because if you don't make them your first year, you can certainly do them in your second year. But if you're doing a thesis somewhere on the other side of the world, coming back to Ísafjörður, may not be the ideal situation. But those are things we can talk about once you're on site. Nothing to worry about right now.
Yes. Thank you, Brack. This was an
Yes.
excellent summary of our structure. Now we're going to let Matthias continue to talk about his program and talk more about contents.
Yes, let's look into that. So thanks for having shown us what it exactly means in terms of courses, how it's distributed. And now let's talk about, or try to help you finding the right program for you. I think, I hope that we can somewhat make the choice a bit easier for you. So if you are somewhat torn between the Coastal Communities and Regional Development Program and the Coastal Marine Management Program, this is what CRD is about, the short version of it. So if we had to pick some disciplines that are somewhat the foundation of this program, it would be geography, economics, sociology, and planning. So we will start the year talking about what makes a coastal zone, what is important to know in a coastal zone, what are the economic drivers in a certain area. So we don't go in the hardcore economics. It's more like that we identify certain weaknesses in the structure of a region, of a certain place, and then we can look how to challenge those. But also what makes a community, what makes a region, so the sociological background, the sociological foundation of a given place. And then, of course, since it's about development, we look quite a lot into the planning aspects from all kinds of different angles. And if you are interested in finding solutions for coastal communities, not only in the North Atlantic, not only in Europe or North America, but also elsewhere, this might be the best program for you. So we try to find answers to different challenges that we see today, such as depopulation, that people spend or tend to move into urban centers, a lot of smaller, remote and coastal communities losing inhabitants, and how can we fight the trend of urbanization? That's something that we address. But also, what does it mean for a certain locality if we lose access to the ocean, if we lose a major driver, a main industry? We learn from examples in Iceland, where a lot of places have lost access to the ocean, where some areas cannot really go and fish as they have done throughout the 80s and 90s. So we will look into that as well. How can we deal with certain resources, with scarce resources, with somewhat very highly competitive resources? What can we do about those? Which role can innovation play in turning things around? We look into good examples also when it comes to the aspect of innovation, entrepreneurship, development in certain areas. And of course, all this under the umbrella of the, sometimes very difficult socioeconomic foundation for many of those regions that we talk about.
All right, this is Brack's turn to convince you all to study coastal and marine management instead.
So you can see you work a lot with nets and lines. The CMM program, the emphasis is on management. It is a degree that's a Master of Resource Management. And so no matter what you do, you're sort of looking at everything through the framework and the perspective of management. Certainly people that have come into the program and gone on are interested in issues of how do we protect coastal regions. They're interested perhaps in the use of marine spatial planning and to help manage the multi-uses that can take place in coastal areas, and certainly the Westfjords and provide a great example of all the different stakeholders that you might find trying to vie for using the coastal and marine spaces, whether that's fisheries, aquaculture, tourism, nature conservation. We have lots of good on-site examples that you can not only learn about in the classroom, but go out and experience in person. We do, as I mentioned, have a lot of fisheries and aquaculture taking place. So we do have a lot of students that are interested in studying about fisheries and aquaculture and going on to careers in those fields. We also look a lot at how do we protect these areas? How do we, there's a lot of important biodiversity in these areas, not just around Iceland, but certainly marine and coastal regions around the world that are being threatened by things like invasive species, debris that we're putting in the ocean, trash, plastics. And so we have courseworks that look at those issues and just really trying to manage what is going on in these spaces with perhaps a special focus on Arctic areas because we are on the edge of the Arctic. But that said, we have also students that do thesis research and instructors that introduce you to issues going all around in these areas around the world. And next slide, to sort of how we do that, we really start off the year looking at some of the natural and physical processes that drive how coastal and marine systems function naturally, perhaps without humans getting involved, but also thinking about, how have humans changed things? And once you have a pretty nice basis in how these systems function, we then look at what are some of the basics of tools that are used to help manage these areas, and how do you engage people in your local communities and sometimes global communities to talk about the different uses and to try to strike some sort of balance between human use and protection. So.
All right. Who wants to summarize for us all the good reasons why you should study in Ísafjörður?
So certainly Ísafjörður, as Astrid mentioned, is a small community in perhaps a remote part of Iceland, which itself could be considered remote, but it's compared to at least my experiences of communities of 2,500 in different countries around the world, it has a lot of things going for it that a lot of smaller places don't. Because we are the economic center of the Westfjords, We have a very vibrant culture that both supports the learning in our programs as well as the extracurricular and private life activities. It's a very friendly and open community because it's when you get people to come up to this area, we're happy to have you. We're happy to find out who you are. We have a lot of important stakeholders in the area that we like to interact with, whether that's some of the local communities that are struggling with community development, whether that's the aquaculture industry or the fishing industries, the energy companies, and we have a lot of really good relationships with them. We take you on visits to some of their facilities. We bring in speakers from a lot of the region, so you get a really nice introduction to the community, and Emily can tell you her perspective, but I think students really have the opportunity to get involved and feel like they're part of this community. So it's a great place to come study for that. We have a lot of natural resources that you can take advantage of that Emily will tell you a little more. And depending on where you're coming from, we don't currently have any tuition. We do have annual registration fees that, depending on the country you're coming from, might seem relatively inexpensive. If you are in the EU or the European Economic Area, those fees are 150,000 Icelandic kroner a year. For those of you who are not familiar with the Icelandic kroner as a currency, it works out to be roughly $1,000 US or euros. If you're from outside of the EU and the EEA, it is twice that, 300,000 Icelandic kroner or 2,000 USD or euro.
Yep. Thanks for that, Brack. And as you mentioned, we take you also as much as we can outside into the field, visiting companies. You see some activities here from within our classrooms or within our university center. So the group picture in the background, you see Iceland's smallest library, official library, that we equip also with a lot of interesting readings from our two fields. But we also have a lot of in-class activities, getting students to work on group projects, work on different assignments, and not having just 3 hours of lectures every single day. So it is usually quite interactive what we are doing. And on the next few slides, exactly, we can see some pictures from field trips that we have been doing, but also some in-class activities. Brack mentioned before, 2 of our courses are heading south to Reykjavik, attending the Arctic Circle Assembly, where about 2,000 people, 2,000 stakeholders from all around the world, of course, mainly from the Arctic areas, come together, and we bring our students there. It's a huge event. It's great fun, but it's also an excellent networking activity. And a lot of students find thesis topics there. Some find institutions that they want to work with later on. So it's a really, really good opportunity. Then we take you, of course, to some fish processing companies and facilities here in the area. We're also heading out to the ocean, visiting some of the fish farming activities. Then we spend a lot of time at the beaches that we have here in this area and visit I think after this 1 year of coursework, you have a very good sense of the region and where we are. And you can see best practice examples in and outside the classroom. Also maybe some not so best practice examples, but all sorts of examples from the area that we are living in and working in.
I went too fast. We don't want to skip the thesis.
No problem. Exactly. So after all this, inside, outside classroom, your time comes to write the master thesis. And this is something, some students come here with a very precise idea what they want to look into. Some come here to the Westfjords having no clue what their final work should be about, what their final thesis should be about. So no, don't worry if you don't have an idea. We are here. That's one of our tasks, to help you finding a good topic, finding a good advisor, finding something that you are very excited about. So what does that mean? We find you an advisor, we find you an institution to work with, and you spend approximately somewhat between 7, 8, 9 months working on your thesis. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, no problem as well, but this is the rough estimate that we have if everything works well and is according to plan. 45 ECTS, that equals somewhat 7 months of work that you put into your master thesis, including, of course, all the lit review that you need for a master thesis, but also conducting your data assessment, your data analysis. And as we mentioned before, we are not that many people at the University Center, so we are somewhat dependent on help from the outside. We connect you to institutions, we connect you to advisors. A lot of our teachers have their own research projects, their own ideas that they will share with you while they're here, also afterwards. And then we share these ideas with you. You can connect to a potential advisor, to a teacher, and then develop your idea from there. And we get this question quite a lot, and I think I've seen that also popping up here. You're not bound to Iceland at all with your master thesis. You can literally go anywhere you want. I think we have seen master theses from each and every continent, and I think that is also quite exciting for us, also exciting for you, because you can pretty much choose the place that you want to write your master thesis about. Again, make sure that it somewhat addresses the coast. But I think that's the only, one of the very few restrictions, let's put it like this, that we have in this regard.
All right, so there are some more follow-up questions regarding the thesis in the Q&A function. Some of it Matthias already addressed that, yes, we will try to advise you as good as we can in connecting to people that are involved in the subject that you're most interested in. And well, if we want to give examples where students have gone for the thesis, it's the world. The world is your limit. So we have the students who stay here in Ísafjörður or who stay in Iceland, and then some move on back to their home country. We have currently students conducting research literally at the other end of the world. We're
I would just add,
Brack would like to add something.
Yeah, I would just add in, since there was a question about specific locations, we have the furthest away is probably New Zealand right now. We have students in Canada, in the US, in Germany, in Iceland, that are the ones jumping to mind off the top of my head.
The very first master thesis that we had in the Coastal Communities program was written in Indonesia about access to drinking water, to fresh water. So yeah, that came as a big surprise. So the first thesis that was published here in Iceland actually was written in Indonesia. So that was quite exciting to see. But yeah, it can be about what we have seen here in the surroundings. We have seen some theses being written about avalanche risk and small communities in our neighborhood, but it can take you as far as New Zealand or Indonesia. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, this is about thesis. If you have any further questions regarding thesis research, please poke this in the Q&A function. Otherwise, I would move on to admission subject, which is also always a very burning question for many applicants. So the main admission requirement or general requirement for applying to a program at UW is that you have completed a bachelor's degree. It's 180 ECTS, and we require you to have good English language skills, as all teaching, all communication is conducted in English, all your homework, all your assignments, and also your thesis, unless you would like to write it in Icelandic, which is, of course, an option too. On our homepage, under admission, you find all the essential information regarding the application process, the dates and deadlines, the supporting documents that we require. There is additional information for on immigration issues, and most and foremost, the deadline. So our first one is February 15th. This is the first time we go through all applications, and then have our first big admission meeting, and then we will continue processing applications on a rolling basis. So we just opened the application portal and we're slowly skimming through applications. We will respond in the application portal. So if you have applied already and you're waiting for an answer, just be a little patient with us. We are very few staff here, and there is a lot of communication that we have to go through. So on our homepage, you find the button saying "Apply Now," where you all should, you should press, and this one leads you to the application portal or communication portal of the University of Akureyri. So we are using their infrastructure. The first thing you should do when you enter it, switch it to English. There is a little British flag in the upper corner where you can switch it to English. Please don't let your browser translate it, then you only get gibberish. It doesn't really work. So switch the portal into English, and then under new application program, you choose a graduate program. This is us, and we are a collaborating organization to the University of Akureyri. And then this is the only two programs that are coming up, the CMM and the CRD, because we're the first ones to open for admission. Icelandic universities, they're usually a little later than we are, the other ones at least. So you take your time filling in the application, and then please make sure that you attach all the supporting documents to your application. So we would like to see a complete CV in English as a PDF, a statement of purpose where we learn about you, why you want to choose that program, what you bring to the table, and what you want to do with the program after you graduated. Where do you want to go with that, with the program? We need some evidence of your previous education, in best case, official documents that are preferred to be sent right from the university where you graduated from. And we need some proof of your English skills. Try to attach all of those documents to your applications, then I have it all in one place. What we require to be sent straight from the referees are the reference letters or reference forms about you. So it would be great if you find two people from your work environment, from volunteering environment, from extracurricular environment, from your university, from your undergraduates who can judge your academic performance and tell us why you are a good fit to our program. If you have any further questions about the admission process, please send an email to applications@uw.is or send an email straight to me. So that's fine too. And what is sometimes a little confusing because the University of Akureyri has an application fee, and so do many other Icelandic universities. We don't. So we don't have an application fee. So if you get a response asking you please pay the application fee, this does not apply to us. Some additional information on immigration. So all international students must register in Iceland or apply for resident permit, depending on your citizenship. This is a relatively simple process for European students or from the Nordics, but it requires a little more effort and paperwork for citizens from outside of Europe. Detailed information and forms are provided on the website of the Directorate of Immigration. We have a lot of information on our homepage too, and also we're linking to the website of the Directorate of Immigration. And I can tell you that half of our students every year are coming from countries outside of the European Union. So this should not discourage you from applying. It does require a little bit more effort and paperwork, but a lot of students have managed to do this before you. Emily is one of them. So it is absolutely, it's doable. It just requires a little bit more time, and it pays off to get your paperwork in order early on and submit that application early on. The application deadline for residence permit is June 1st. So that the Directorate of Immigration has a realistic chance to process your application before the fall semester. This is most of it about immigration. I'm just going to very quickly check. I'm going to go through the Q&A and see if there are any more questions that I can answer. There's when IELTS be accepted for English requirements. Yes, the IELTS certificate is an excellent certificate. We're looking forward to receive that. Right. So now I give Emily some time and space to share her student perspective about, studying at UW.
All right, I'll introduce myself, I guess, first. So I'm Emily. I'm coming from Canada, and I am in my first year in coastal and marine management. So I got here back in August, and it was, well, where do I start? So there was like the immigration stuff with which Astrid mentioned, and I thought that process was relatively straightforward for me. But then once you arrive in town there and in Iceland, there is still some more things that need to be done. But everybody is very helpful here, so I wouldn't worry about that. Like I had a lot of help when I got here, and we just figured everything out together. So there is definitely that sense of community between students, and also second year students are very open to helping. And just in terms of studying at UW, I've so far really enjoyed it. It is a different system than what I'm used to because I'm coming from, I guess, more a North American system where we have a couple of courses for the whole semester instead of the module system. So it is new, but I am enjoying that so far because you're constantly changing classes. So if there's something you don't like or you're not interested in as much, it's not very long-lived. And then also you're getting to meet different teachers who could be your supervisors, and they all bring different forms of teaching methods. So it doesn't get boring. You're always doing something new, and I've been really enjoying that so far. In terms of living in the town, we have a lot to do. So it is a small town, but there's almost too many things to do, I would say. I've found myself in a situation where I've had to pick and choose between what I'm going to do a certain night because there's a lot of like recreational activities, skiing, surfing, sailing. When I first got here, I was doing a lot of hiking. I did some wild blueberry picking. I also did some sheep herding. So I tried to immerse myself, I guess, in the culture as much as I could. But now that we're in the winter times, you can still do a lot of these outside activities. But there are indoor activities. So there is a cinema, and we get some good movies coming out. So I just watched Wicked the other day. And then we also have pub quizzes every week. There's a lot of student organized activities. And we have bingo. So yeah, I feel like I've been in situations where I really had to pick what I wanted to do because a lot of things happen on the same day. And there are opportunities to get involved with the community as well. So I've been volunteering at the local fish market once a week, and that's become kind of a really fun social hangout with other students and one of the locals. So yeah, you don't get bored. And I've been here for 4 months, and it has passed like really, really quickly already. So I'm excited for what's to come too. And I don't know, there's definitely some things that I'm missing here, but if there's some questions, I can answer that.
Well, thank you, Emily. So as you see, I've been browsing through the pictures while you were talking, and I think it reflects the variety of activities that are available here in Ísafjörður. And I often hear students say that, they rather get bored in larger cities than they do here in
Yeah.
Ísafjörður, because
Yeah.
there's always something, and you definitely never go alone. So there's always people that always drag you out and encourage you to do
Yes.
something. And yeah, there was a heavy load on the outdoor activities, but as Emily said, we have indoor activities here too, especially now in the winter. If you're not into winter surfing or watching Northern Lights, a lot of our life is happening inside during the cold months. We all have a winter background photo here, so you can imagine what it looks like outside here right now. Okay, if you have any further questions for Emily, feel free to send them to us, and then we will forward them to Emily or to other students. Let's see what we have here on our next slide, yes, the student housing. So our brand new student housing, and I think Brack is going to tell us a little bit more about that while I have another look at the Q&A section here.
Yeah, so we built two student dorms that opened last year. The dorms contain studio apartments. So in each of the buildings, there's 20 studios as well. So the studios have a kitchenette. They have their own bathroom, a sleeping area, and a more private living study area. They also share in the building themselves 2 large kitchens, as well as other large sort of commons areas that can be used for group activities. They're located right on the isthmus or the peninsula downtown, and so it's about a 5 to 10 minute walk to the university center from the dorms. You have, if you're on the water side, I've often hear reports of people seeing whale flukes from their window. So, you get a pretty nice view. I would have to say, I think some of the views from the dorms have to rival around the world for some of the best views for student housing. The housing is currently about 130,000 Icelandic kroner per month. Once you are registered as a resident in the town of Ísafjörður, you can apply for a housing subsidy, which can be up to 40% from the municipality. And so that does bring that price down a decent amount. There are also, if you don't want to live in the student housing, there are apartments or shared rooms to rent as well on the economy that are located throughout town. So we have, I would roughly estimate, about half of our students live in the university student housing and about half are out on the economy. So I think that's all there is to say about that for now.
Thank you very much, Brack. Talking about money.
Matthias, you need to unmute.
Matthias, you muted?
Yep, classic. Okay, good. So we get a lot of questions about how to finance all that, studies, how to survive in Ísafjörður, how to survive Iceland. So one opportunity is, of course, working here in the surroundings in the Westfjords. We see a lot of students that very fast get a job and work here part-time during their studies. But of course, some of you might also be more interested in funding opportunities while you're here or when you're writing your master's thesis. We can never promise any funding because we, as the university center, cannot give out any sort of funding. But we always try to help you finding other sources for a funded research project. We were quite successful over the past couple of years. We just received the good news 2 days ago that one of our students got a grant for doing his master's studies research through the Regional Development Institute of Iceland. So every year, students that do their research about Icelandic topics have a really high chance to get at least some funding from this institute, but also other institutions here in the Westfjords all over Iceland have quite nice funding opportunities for students. And we are quite successful, I would say, in securing funding for our students. But again, we are dependent on them running these funding every year again and again. So given that they will provide fundings also in the future, I'm quite optimistic that we can at least increase chances for fundings here as well. Also, we try to attract bigger research projects to the university center and then try to get students on board as research assistants. We have been also quite successful with that. Just as an example, 2 students, CRD and CMM, are working with me and Brack on research projects, and we are traveling to Scotland next year for a workshop that these 2 students are running and getting some financial return as well through funding for that as well, being hired as research assistants from us. Also, over the past couple of years, we had a huge research project here at the University Center that gave us the opportunity to hire 4 students for their master thesis. So we try our very best, but we can't promise anything.
All right, and then I think there were a couple questions in the chat as well about what can you do with a degree from the University Center. And so we've seen our students be very successful in the job market. As you can see from the graph in front of you, a lot do go to work in fields related to coastal studies, which is very good for us. We're happy to see that. But it's also nice to see that there are students that are former students that are getting jobs in other areas that, even though they may find their interests lie elsewhere after the program, or job opportunities, attractive job opportunities are outside of the field of coastal studies, that the skills you learn, the abilities you learn while you're in our program are transferable to a wide range of careers. And so we see students, specifically thinking about coastal studies opportunities, we see students often working for government agencies at various levels, whether that's local, regional, or national level, often in their home countries, but perhaps also in other countries. We see students going to work for industry. We have a lot of students that work in the fisheries or aquaculture industry. We see students going to work for nonprofit organizations, and we see students also opening up their own business sometimes. So we have, in fact, in town, we have one student that after he graduated decided to open a bike shop and do some bike tourism opportunities for the local community, which has been a nice addition to our community. A fair number of students, surprisingly, end up staying in Iceland and end up staying in the Westfjords. And so that was one thing that I was really impressed with. And I think speaks very highly for the type of community we have in Ísafjörður. That's, students from all over the world say, hey, this is a great place to be. And I want to stay here, not just for my degree, but also look for a job. So, and there are job opportunities in our area.
So it always depends a little bit on the availability, of course, and sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes you have to ask around before you have found something. But as Brack said, to answer the questions that we have seen here during in the Q&A, there are opportunities. They're not lying all out on the street, but there are opportunities, of course, and we're always keeping our eyes and ears open to see how we can connect our graduates with the job market. So let's see what this is about it. This is almost all we have to say. So please visit our homepage, have a look at our homepage, send us an email, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. Facebook is still a thing here in Iceland. If you have program specific questions, then please address them to Matthias or to Brack, and everything else, send it my way. We also have an info@uw.is email that you can send us all your questions. I'm going to have a very quick look through the Q&A. So there's one question here. Feel free to apply to both programs. Emmanuel is asking if he applied to both programs, if he's being penalized. Not at all. So if you can't decide, apply to both programs. You might want to give us a hint on which one you prefer. Otherwise, we might choose for you. And then I think we have answered this one, that we are always trying to connect our students with industries and our contacts. This is a great advantage of the small group. We're in very close touch with our students. Here you are, a name and a person, not just a student ID. We know exactly what you want to do, where you come from, where you want to go. We talk and we try to help. And then there's another question of how competitive the program is. I mean, it's the classes are small, but then also on the other hand, this is a master's program just south of the Arctic Circle in a very remote community. So not everyone is too keen on, or not everyone is applying here. So we always try to find the right people and the right fit to the programs and also to the community. So yes, it is somewhat competitive, but we absolutely encourage everyone to apply and to reach out to us. So if we have sparked any form of interest and you're curious, about studying here, then please reach out to us, get in touch, and we'll see together if we can make this work. We look at your complete application, so we really reread your letters. We want to see what you've done before. Of course, we have a look at what your undergraduate is, but we also see if do you have work experience, do you have volunteering experience, because we believe that everyone brings something else to the table. And yeah, so we do not just look at your grades or your background, we look at your whole application, and we are very much looking forward to read it. It's always very interesting to see. Then
while you're reading through that, I think building on that, what is also important to know is, like, if you think that your background doesn't necessarily match what we are looking for, when we are interdisciplinary, so you can also say that why you are going for complete change from something that is not coastal related, or maybe not even social science or natural science related. So we have all kind of very interesting examples of students that came with a rather unrelated undergraduate degree, and then got a really good degree from us. So sometimes it's very impressive to see the steep learning curve that some students take, but give us some help to understand why you come with a very maybe not directly fitting degree and want to study with us. So help us a little bit with your what you write in your application, why you go for a completely new program or a complete new interest.
Yes, just going through some more questions here. So if we have already answered all your questions and you already know, then thank you very much for listening and for joining us here today. As I said, if you have any remaining questions or thoughts or want to talk to us or get in touch, then please do get in touch. Otherwise, we thank you for your time. We're very much looking forward to receiving your application. And if you're still waiting for an answer in the Q&A function, then you just give me a minute. We're working on it. There's a question on the feedback. We will provide feedback as soon as we can. We're just before the holidays. So especially or immediately in the beginning of the new year, we're gonna answer all your emails, and we will also try to communicate in the application portal, in the communication portal, so that we have everything in the same place.
And I would add on there. I would just add on, in case the question was about when you would find out if you get accepted. We don't make our first decisions until after that February 15th deadline. So that would be later, sometime late February, early March is when you would hear from us from that.
Yes, and to answer a follow-up question, this should give you plenty of time to get all your ducks in a row and to prepare your paperwork for the residence permit. So this is why we have the application deadline so early in February, so that everyone from non-EU countries has a good amount of time to prepare. Yes, and then I think we've answered most of them.
There were a few about like the housing subsidies and stuff.
Yeah, so how many? Yeah, so if you stay in the student dorm, or if you're renting privately and it's your lease, you're on the contract, then you're eligible for the housing benefits, and this is a municipality support, which is not linked at all to a work permit or anything like this. And as a student, you're probably eligible to the highest subsidy, so you can lower you get up to 40% of your rent you get subsidized. It's a bit of a paperwork, once you moved here to Ísafjörður, but it's absolutely worth it. And as Emily said, everyone is helping out, and those who've gone through the process and have done this before, they're usually happy to help out. Yes. I hope this answers the question. Otherwise, feel free to send me and follow up. email. Right. I think that's about it. Is there anything you see that I don't see that we need to answer?
There's a question here
Yes.
about like wages with part-time job, and I think it will vary from job to job. But it's quite high, at least compared to like back home for me. I'm based in Montreal, so it's like quite a bit higher. But there is sometimes a little bit of a delay before you can start working with the work permits. So I think that's something to keep in mind too.
I think that is also important to consider. I mean, if you're a non-European Union or EA citizen, there are some restrictions for how much you can work per week. I don't know the exact number, maybe somebody else knows, but
It's 22.
22 hours. Okay, good. And I mean, at one point you want to study as well, right? So that's
Yeah.
as well. But I mean, we see, especially once we are done with our coursework and the tourism season starts here full swing, a lot of our students can definitely earn some really good money here, especially during the summertime when the university center is somewhat closed for coursework, but when the town definitely needs every helping hand, then I think that's a good time for earning some money for the thesis research that follows, or for whatever you're planning.
Yes, exactly. Don't forget that it's full-time studies. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we definitely, we'll keep you busy. But most of students here in town have a part-time job. So, and if not the whole year, then seasonal. There's a lot of tourism in the summer. So, and there's usually a lot of exchange in the student cohort about available jobs and job opportunities. And there's a lot of helping each other. Okay. Participants are leaving us.
I think then.
Yes. So, well, for those who are left, thank you very much for joining us today, for attending. And yes, as we said, we're looking forward to receiving your emails and applications and get in touch with you. Thank you, Emily, for joining.
No problem.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Have a nice holiday season.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And a Happy New Year.
Bye. I think you now have to, I think it's only you who can stop the recording.
Yes, I wanna answer a few more.
But you can stop the recording, right?
Yeah.
It is stopped.
Okay.